Welcome back to COCO Gossip, your one and only source for the piping hot tea simmering behind the scenes of your favorite reality shows. I'm your host, COCO, and today we are diving headfirst into a story that has been bubbling just beneath the surface, a saga of suburban warfare that proves the drama doesn't stop when the TLC cameras turn off. We're talking about the sister wives, but more specifically, we're zooming in on the king and queen of chaos themselves, Kody and Robyn Brown. We've all seen the family implode. We've watched Christine and Janelle reclaim their lives, their happiness, and their freedom. But what if I told you that the very traits that drove them away, the disregard for rules, the sense of entitlement, the belief that they are above it all, aren't just confined to their family dynamics? What if I told you Kody and Robyn's behavior has made them outcasts in their own ritzy, upscale Flagstaff neighborhood? Today, we pull back the pristine curtain of their gated community to reveal a shocking pattern of defiance, disrespect, and downright delinquency. We have uncovered a mountain of evidence, from exclusive insider reports and leaked documents, that paints a picture of Kody and Robyn Brown as the neighbors from hell. We're talking about dozens of complaints, a cascade of violation notices, and a staggering $20,000 in fines that have led to the ultimate suburban humiliation, a lien on their precious fortress. This is the HOA violation war. Before we unpack this treasure trove of neighborhood gossip and financial ruin, you know what to do. If you love getting the exclusive scoop that no one else dares to report, hit that subscribe button right now, ring that little bell so you don't miss a single scandalous update, and give this video a big thumbs up to let me know you are ready for the unvarnished truth. Your support is what allows me to dig deep and bring these stories to light. Now let's get into it. To truly understand the depth of this neighborhood war, we need to set the scene. When Kody and Robyn Brown settled in Flagstaff, Arizona, they didn't just buy a house, they bought into a lifestyle. We're talking about a community with sprawling properties, stunning mountain views, and something else that came as a rude awakening for the Brown patriarch. Rules. Strict rules. This isn't the Wild West of Coyote Pass, where Kody's word was law and plans could change with his fleeting moods. This is a homeowners association, or HOA, a private governing body with a thick book of covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CC&Rs for those in the know, that every single resident agrees to abide by. These aren't suggestions, folks. They are legally binding agreements designed to protect property values and ensure a certain standard of living. We're talking about everything from the color you can paint your mailbox to where you can park your car and how often you have to mow your lawn. For most people, it's a simple trade-off for a well-maintained community. But for Kody and Robyn Brown, according to our exclusive insider reports, this rulebook was seen as a personal attack on their freedom, their lifestyle, and Kody's very manhood. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a blade of grass, or rather, thousands of them. Our investigation has unearthed what we believe to be the very first seeds of this conflict, detailed in redacted HOA meeting minutes leaked to us by a resident who has asked to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation. Let's call our source Deep Pine, a nod to the towering trees that hide the secrets of this affluent enclave. According to Deep Pine, the initial complaints were minor, almost laughably so. The first official entry regarding the Brown residents, dated shortly after they moved in, allegedly reads, Item 4B, discussion regarding property at 9508W #knife Trollsell. Complaint filed regarding failure to maintain landscaping in accordance with community standards, overgrown lawn, excessive weeds noted in front flower beds, and general unkempt appearance. Now, a single landscaping complaint is hardly a declaration of war. Most new homeowners get a friendly reminder or two as they settle in. But what the HOA board didn't know was that they weren't dealing with a typical homeowner. They were dealing with Kody Brown. According to our source, Deep Pine, Kody's response was not to simply hire a gardener. Oh no, that would be too simple, too compliant. Instead, a report from a neighbor who witnessed the exchange alleges that Kody confronted the HOA president, a retired orthodontist named Richard, during his morning power walk. The exchange, as recounted to Deep Pine, was pure Kody bluster. He allegedly claimed he was a landman, a man of the earth, and that he preferred a more natural, rustic look for his property. He supposedly argued that the manicured lawns of his neighbors were sterile and lacked character. Richard, the HOA president, was reportedly unmoved, reminding Kody that he had signed the same documents as everyone else. This, our source says, is where the tension truly began to escalate. It was Kody's first taste of being told no by someone other than his wives, and he did not take it well. The fine for the landscaping violation was a mere $100, a pittance for a reality TV star. But for Kody, it wasn't about the money, it was about the principle that he, Kody Brown, the patriarch, the leader, the man who once commanded a four-home empire, should not be told what to do by a committee of what he allegedly called glorified hall monitors. He didn't pay the fine, and that, my friends, is when the snowball of violations started rolling downhill, growing bigger and bigger with each act of defiance. The next major battle in the HOA war centered around something you might not expect: trash cans. Yes, you heard me. Refuse containers. The community has a very clear rule, as outlined in the documents we've reviewed from similar Arizona HOAs. Trash and recycling bins must be stored out of public view on non-collection days. Simple enough, you keep them in the garage, behind a fence, wherever, just not sitting out by the curb all week. But for the Browns, this seemingly straightforward rule proved to be a monumental challenge. A series of violation notices, copies of which were provided to us by a second source within the community, detail a relentless campaign by the HOA to get Kody and Robyn to simply put their trash cans away. Let's look at the timeline. The first notice, a friendly reminder, was sent in early 2020. The second, a formal notice of violation with a $50 fine, was sent 3 weeks later. A third, citing continued noncompliance and tacking on another $100 fine, followed a month after that. The notices, which we have reviewed, are incredibly specific. One dated May 2020 reads, "Violation, improper storage of refuse containers. Bins were observed at the curb on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Collection day is Wednesday." This is the fourth notice regarding this recurring issue. According to Deep Pine, this became a running joke among the neighbors. They would take bets on how long the Browns' trash cans would remain on the street after pickup. It was a visual symbol of their disregard for the community. A neighbor, speaking to us on the condition of anonymity, put it this way: "It's not just laziness, it's a statement. It's a middle finger to all of us who follow the rules. It says, we are different, we are special, and your petty regulations don't apply to us." The fines for the trash cans alone, according to a ledger we've been briefed on, quickly added up to over $750, a sum they continued to ignore. They were making it clear they would not be governed. But Kody and Robyn were just getting warmed up. Their next move would take the war from minor skirmishes over aesthetics to a full-blown battle over unapproved construction, a move that would solidify their reputation as the ultimate nightmare neighbors. This is where the infamous shed mansion comes into play. Now, we've all seen the sprawling property Kody and Robyn inhabit, but apparently the massive house wasn't enough. According to HOA meeting minutes in the summer of 2021, a complaint was filed regarding a large, unapproved outbuilding being constructed in the Browns' backyard. In this neighborhood, any structural addition, even a small shed, requires submitting plans and getting approval from the Architectural Review Committee. This is to ensure that all structures are harmonious with the community's overall aesthetic and don't negatively impact a neighbor's property value or view. Kody and Robyn, in true Brown fashion, allegedly skipped this step entirely. They reportedly had a massive 2-story structure delivered and assembled on their property without a single piece of paperwork filed with the HOA. The redacted minutes from an emergency HOA meeting are telling. One board member is quoted as saying, "This is not a shed. This is a small barn. It's visible from 3 surrounding properties and is completely inconsistent with the approved architectural styles of the community." Another entry details the initial attempt to communicate with Kody. A cease and desist letter was hand-delivered. Mr. Brown refused to accept the letter and stated to the compliance officer that the structure was temporary and for storage of personal business assets. This is where Kody's side hustles, which have often been a source of speculation and mystery for Sister Wives fans, come crashing into his domestic life. What personal business assets required a 2-story shed mansion? Neighbors began to speculate wildly. Was it boxes of unsold My Sister Wife's Closet jewelry? Was it a secret man cave where Kody could escape his single-family monogamous life? Was it a warehouse for his inexplicable collection of convertible sports cars? The truth, according to an insider report, is even more disruptive. The theory circulating among neighbors is that Kody was attempting to run a small-scale logistics or distribution business from his home. This theory gained traction when commercial vehicles, another major HOA no-no, began appearing. The parking rules in the CC&Rs are crystal clear. No commercial vehicles, RVs, or trailers are to be parked on a property in view of the street for more than 24 hours. Yet, neighbors started reporting a parade of unmarked panel vans and even a small box truck frequenting the Brown residence, often parking on the street for days at a time. A formal complaint filed by an adjacent neighbor paints a vivid picture. For the past 2 weeks, a large white commercial van has been parked directly in front of my property, often idling for long periods in the early morning and late evening. Boxes are frequently being loaded and unloaded from the large, unapproved shed on the Browns' property. This is a residential community, not a commercial loading dock. The HOA's response was swift and severe. They issued a violation notice for the unapproved structure, with a hefty $1,000 initial fine, plus a demand for daily fines of $100 until the structure was removed. They also began issuing separate daily fines for the commercial vehicle parking. The financial ledger, as described to us by our source, began to look like a runaway train. The initial small fines for landscaping and trash cans were now being compounded by thousands of dollars in penalties for the shed and the vehicles. And still, Kody and Robyn refused to pay or comply. It was at this point, our sources say, that the HOA realized they were in for the fight of their lives. Kody wasn't just a stubborn resident, he was actively and openly defying their authority. According to Deep Pine, the HOA's legal counsel was brought in to draft a series of increasingly threatening letters, warning of legal action and the possibility of placing a lien on their property. Kody's alleged response? He doubled down. A report suggests he sent a rambling 4-page email to the entire HOA board, which was leaked in parts among the gossiping neighbors. In this supposed email, Kody framed the entire conflict as a form of religious persecution. He allegedly claimed that their unique family structure and public profile made them a target. He argued that the shed was necessary for his family's preparedness, a nod to his fundamentalist roots, and that the complaints were an infringement on his right to provide for his family. He bizarrely and without evidence accused the board of being anti-family and discriminatory. The board, composed of seasoned professionals and retirees, was reportedly flabbergasted. One neighbor who heard about the email told us, "It was unhinged. He was trying to turn his refusal to follow basic rules into some kind of righteous crusade. No one cared about his family structure. We just wanted him to move his van and take down the ugly shed." This pattern of playing the victim, of twisting reality to fit his own narrative, is something Sister Wives viewers have seen time and time again. It's the same tactic he used to justify his neglect of his other wives and children. In Kody's world, he is never the problem. The problem is always everyone else's inability to recognize his greatness and bend to his will. But while Christine, Janelle, and Mary eventually found the strength to walk away from his manipulative reality, his neighbors were stuck. They had invested their life savings into their homes, into this community, and they were not about to let one man's ego destroy the peace and order they all paid a premium for. The war was about to enter a new, much louder phase. As the fines piled up and the legal threats intensified, the conflict moved from passive-aggressive notes and formal complaints to direct, audible disruption. We're talking, of course, about the noise complaints. Life inside the Brown household has always been portrayed as chaotic, with the constant churn of a large family. But with most of the children grown and flown, one would assume things might have quieted down. According to their neighbors, that assumption would be dead wrong. Multiple sources have described a pattern of disruptive behavior emanating from the property, often late at night. These aren't just one-off parties. They're described as recurring disturbances that suggest a complete lack of awareness or care for the people living around them. One of the most frequent complaints detailed in the violation notices we've been briefed on revolves around loud, late-night arguments. A neighbor whose property backs up to the Browns told us, on condition of anonymity, "We can hear them clear as day in our backyard, and sometimes even through the windows. It's mostly Kody, just shouting, not just angry shouting, but this kind of performative, theatrical yelling. It's like he's always playing to an imaginary camera. We've had to call security several times after 10 p.m., which is the start of the community's designated quiet hours. These calls are corroborated by the violation notices. We have seen references to at least 3 separate fines issued for noise complaints after 10 p.m., each one more expensive than the last. But it wasn't just the fighting. Another source of noise was Kody's apparent obsession with late-night projects. Another neighbor described being woken up at 11:30 p.m. by the sound of a power saw coming from the infamous shed mansion. When the neighbor called the community's courtesy patrol, the officer who responded reported that Mr. Brown was engaged in some kind of woodworking project and became belligerent when informed of the time and the complaint, claiming he could do what he wanted on his own property. This sense of entitlement is a recurring theme in every piece of evidence we have gathered. It's the belief that ownership of the property extends to ownership of the entire surrounding environment. The rules of the community, the peace and quiet of his neighbors were all secondary to his whims. The financial consequences of this mountain of violations were becoming catastrophic. The ledger of fines, as described to us by our source with knowledge of the HOA's financials, tells a truly shocking story. Let's break down the numbers we've been given. It started with the small stuff, approximately $350 in unpaid fines for landscaping. Then came the trash cans, racking up another estimated $750. The noise complaints added at least $600 to the tally. But the real financial killers were the big-ticket items. The unapproved shed mansion carried an initial $1,000 fine followed by a relentless $100 per day. Our source estimates that before the HOA's legal action forced the issue, this fine alone ballooned to over $9,000. On top of that, the commercial vehicle violations were assessed at $50 per day, totaling another estimated $4,500 over the course of several months. When you add in late fees, collection costs, and the HOA's attorney fees, which the Browns are responsible for under the community's bylaws, the grand total had surged past an incredible $20,000. $20,000 in fines and fees for refusing to follow the basic rules of suburban life. This is a debt that could have been completely avoided by mowing the lawn, storing the trash cans, filing a piece of paperwork, and having the common courtesy not to run a power saw at midnight. It's a level of self-sabotage that is almost incomprehensible. It speaks to a deep-seated arrogance and a pathological opposition to authority. Faced with this staggering level of noncompliance and a massive unpaid balance, the HOA was left with only one final powerful tool in its arsenal. In late 2024, the board voted unanimously to place a lien on Kody and Robyn Brown's property for the full amount owed. For those who don't know, a lien is a legal claim against a property. It means that the Browns cannot sell or refinance their home without paying off that $20,000+ debt to the Homeowners Association first. It's a black mark on their property title, a public record of their failure to meet their obligations. It is the suburban equivalent of a scarlet letter. This, my friends, is where the story takes a fascinating turn, because this isn't just about a neighborhood dispute anymore. This is about the fundamental character of Kody and Robyn Brown and how their private behavior perfectly mirrors the public spectacle we've witnessed on our screens for over a decade. Think about it. Every single violation, every complaint is a microcosm of the larger dysfunction that tore their family apart. The failure to maintain landscaping, that's the emotional neglect of his other wives and children. He let his relationships become overgrown with the weeds of resentment and indifference because he couldn't be bothered to do the basic maintenance required to keep them healthy. The improper storage of refuse containers? That's his refusal to clean up his own messes. He leaves his emotional trash on the curb for everyone else to deal with, for Janelle to manage the finances, for Christine to raise the children, for Mary to deal with her own loneliness, while he retreats into the clean, uncluttered world he shares with Robyn. The unauthorized structures? That's his pattern of making huge, life-altering decisions without consulting the people they will affect. He moved the family from Las Vegas to Flagstaff on a whim, with no concrete plan, destroying the delicate balance they had achieved. He made promises about Coyote Pass that he never intended to keep, building a fantasy in the air while his family lived in limbo. The commercial vehicle parking, it's his constant pursuit of the next big scheme, the next get-rich-quick idea, while failing to manage the actual assets, the family relationships that he already possesses. And the noise complaints? That's the endless, circular, performative drama. The shouting, the chaos, the constant need to be the center of a storm of his own making, with no regard for the peace and sanity of those around him. This isn't just Kody and Robyn being bad neighbors. This is the Kody and Robyn a la carte lifestyle where they take all the benefits of community, the security, the prestige, the rising property values, but refuse to accept any of the responsibilities. They want the life of a respected member of an upscale community, but they want to live by the lawless, self-serving rules of the Brown family cul-de-sac. And this is where the vindication for Christine and Janelle truly comes into focus. For years, they were portrayed in subtle and not-so-subtle ways as the problem. Christine was difficult. Janelle was too independent. They were the ones who couldn't get with Kody's vision. They were made to feel like their exhaustion and frustration with Kody's chaotic leadership and his blatant favoritism towards Robyn were personal failings. But this HOA war proves that their experience was not unique. It proves that the problem was, and always has been, Kody. His inability to follow rules, to respect others, to compromise, to simply be a considerate member of a community is a fundamental part of his character. Christine and Janelle didn't fail to live with Kody. Kody failed to live with them, just as he is now failing to live with his entire neighborhood. The anonymous neighbors who have spoken out, the HOA board that has been forced to take legal action, they are all, in a sense, Christine and Janelle. They are all experiencing the same bewilderment, the same frustration, the same exhaustion that comes from dealing with a man who believes he is the sun and everyone else is just a planet that exists to orbit him. This story, these leaked documents, these insider reports, they are the ultimate validation. They show the world that the chaos wasn't just family drama for the cameras. It is who Kody and Robyn are at their core. It's a public nuisance wrapped in a veneer of reality TV fame. The HOA and their upscale Flagstaff community simply became the latest in a long line of people to discover that living under the rule of Kody Brown is an impossible and ultimately thankless task. The unpaid fines, the legal fees, and the lien on their home are not just penalties for breaking rules. They are a monument to Kody's hubris and a testament to the fact that, sooner or later, reality always comes calling, even for a reality TV star. And in this case, reality came in the form of a certified letter from the Homeowners Association's lawyer. We detailed the parade of commercial vehicles, the late-night noise complaints, and the staggering, unpaid bill of over $20,000 in fines and legal fees. And we left off with the ultimate suburban smackdown. The HOA placing a legal lien on their multi-million-dollar property, a public declaration of their status as problem neighbors. But the documents, the ledgers, the violation notices, they only tell half the story. They are the black and white framework of this conflict. To truly understand the color, the emotion, and the sheer frustration of living next to the Brown family circus, we have to hear from the people on the front lines. Today, we are sharing the exclusive, anonymous testimonies of the neighbors who have had a front row seat to the chaos. We will delve into the exclusive theories swirling around how Kody and Robyn plan to dig themselves out of this financial black hole. And I promise you, you will want to stick around for this. We will reveal the latest, most breathtakingly arrogant act of defiance that has proven once and for all that Kody and Robyn Brown are utterly ungovernable. For months, we've been carefully and discreetly communicating with several residents of this embattled community. They have shared their stories on the condition of absolute anonymity, and we will honor that by referring to them with pseudonyms. Their experiences paint a picture so consistent, so vivid, and so aligned with what we've seen on Sister Wives, it's honestly chilling. Let's start with Brenda, a retiree who lives 2 doors down from the Browns. She and her husband moved to the community for its promised peace and tranquility. What they got instead was Kody Brown's unending psychodrama. When we first heard a TV family was moving in, we were cautiously optimistic, Brenda told us in an encrypted chat. We thought, well, they must be vetted. They must have the money to keep the property nice. That optimism lasted about a month. The first thing we noticed was the noise. Not kids playing. We love the sound of kids playing. This was different. It was an adult screaming. We'd be sitting on our patio in the evening, enjoying the sunset, and suddenly you'd hear Kody's voice, just bellowing. It was often directed at the older kids, from what we could tell, but sometimes it was just this ranting monologue, as if he was pacing around on his phone or just yelling at the sky. It was deeply unsettling. We went from enjoying our backyard to dreading being out there. Brenda's testimony directly corroborates the noise complaints we uncovered, but she shared a specific incident that truly illustrates the Browns' complete disregard for their neighbors. About a year ago, Brenda recounted, there was this awful grinding, metallic sound that started up around 11 o'clock at night. It went on for nearly an hour. My husband is a light sleeper, and he was going stir-crazy. Finally, he walked over there, the garage door was open, the lights were blazing, and Kody was in there using some kind of power grinder on a piece of metal. My husband politely pointed out that it was past 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, and Kody just stared at him, completely dead-eyed, and said, "A man's got to get his work done." Not an apology, not an, "Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I lost track of time." Just pure, arrogant dismissal. As if his need to grind a piece of metal at midnight was more important than the sleep of an entire street. We were the ones who filed the formal complaint that time. We had to. It was a matter of principle. Next, we spoke to the Millers, a young couple with 2 small children living directly across the street. Their concerns were less about noise and more about the general atmosphere of chaos and the potential danger it posed. Honestly, it's the vehicles that scare us the most, Mr. Miller told us. The CC&Rs are very clear about commercial vehicles for a reason. They're large, they create blind spots, and this is a neighborhood filled with kids on bikes. But for a period of about 6 months, there was a constant rotation of these big, white, windowless vans at the Brown house. They would park on the street, sometimes for days, making it hard to pull out of our own driveway. And Kody drives that ridiculous convertible of his like he's a teenager. He peels out of the driveway, takes the corners way too fast. We've had to grab our daughter's arm more than once when he comes flying around the corner. There's a sense of main character syndrome with him, like we're all just extras in his movie. Mrs. Miller added another layer, touching on the aesthetic violations we detailed. It's frustrating because we all pay a lot of money in HOA dues to maintain a certain standard, and it feels like they're intentionally trying to undermine it. The lawn would be a foot high, the trash cans would be overflowing on the street for a week, and then there was the shed. My God, the shed. We looked directly at their backyard from our kitchen window. We used to have a lovely view of the pines. Now, the main feature is this monstrous gray box that looks like a cheap barn. It absolutely affects our property value. They just don't care. There's no pride of ownership. It's like they see the house not as a home in a community, but as a fortress to hide in. These personal accounts transform the dry language of violation notices into a living, breathing nightmare for the people who have to endure it. The picture they paint is one of profound selfishness, a total inability to see the world from anyone's perspective but their own. This, of course, will come as no surprise to longtime viewers of the show. Now let's talk about money. That staggering $20,000 lien, a sum that continues to grow with interest and ongoing legal fees. The big question circulating through the neighborhood and through our gossip channels is, how on earth are they going to pay for it? Or, more accurately, will they even try? This is where our exclusive theories come into play. Our sources, including the well-placed Deep Pine, have reason to believe that Kody and Robyn are in a much more precarious financial situation than they let on. This isn't just about being stubborn, this might be about being broke. For years, the Browns have been funded by their reality show, but the family has imploded. Christine is gone and has her own successful spin-off. Janelle is gone and living her best life. Mary is gone and running her own businesses. The central premise of Sister Wives is, for all intents and purposes, dead. Insiders speculate that the salary Kody and Robyn now command from TLC is a fraction of what it once was. Their show is no longer about a plural family, it's about a monogamous couple dealing with the fallout of their own actions. That's a much harder sell. Furthermore, consider their expenses. They have a massive mortgage on that house. They still have several children at home to support. Robyn, famously, does not work, and her My Sister Wife's Closet jewelry business has been defunct for years. Kody's side hustles have always been vague and seemingly unsuccessful. The lavish spending we've seen from Robyn, the sports cars for Kody, that lifestyle was funded by a four-wife income stream. That stream has been reduced to a trickle. The theory goes that they simply do not have $20,000 in liquid cash to spare to make this problem go away. They are house-rich and cash-poor, trapped in a gilded cage of their own making. This leads us to our second and even more explosive theory. If you don't have the cash, you have to generate it. And how has Kody Brown always generated cash? With a grand, new, dramatic plan. A report from a source close to the family suggests that Kody's latest desperate scheme involves Coyote Pass, the very piece of land that acted as the catalyst for the family's destruction. The theory is that Kody is attempting to quietly sell off one of the parcels of land, specifically the one that was designated for Mary, to generate the funds to pay off the HOA lien and their other mounting debts. However, there's a major snag. The ownership structure of that land is reportedly complex, with multiple family members' names on the deeds. Selling it would require the sign-off of at least one of his former wives, most likely Janelle, who has been the most financially entangled with him. Can you imagine the audacity? After years of neglecting Janelle financially and emotionally, after leaving her to live in an RV on that very land, he would now have to go to her, hat in hand, and ask her to sign off on a sale so he can pay the fines he incurred by being a terrible neighbor with his favorite wife. The drama is almost too perfect. Our source claims this is a major point of contention right now, and that Janelle is, wisely, refusing to play ball without a full and fair accounting of all the family's finances. Kody is stuck. He has an asset he can't liquidate and a debt he can't pay. This financial paralysis, this corner he has backed himself into, is the necessary context for understanding his latest, most desperate move. The ultimate act of defiance that we teased at the beginning. With the lien secured and the debt mounting, the HOA and the neighbors felt a small, cautious sense of victory. They had finally managed to impose a real-world consequence on Kody and Robyn. The thinking was that this legal pressure would surely force them to finally comply, to clean up their act, to pay what they owed, they thought wrong. A few weeks ago, residents of the community received a professionally printed, glossy flyer in their mailboxes. It was an invitation. From Kody and Robyn Brown, they were inviting the entire neighborhood to a community unity BBQ at their home. The flyer was filled with platitudes about getting to know each other better, building bridges, and starting a new chapter of friendship. The neighbors were, to put it mildly, stunned. Was this an apology? A white flag? An attempt to make amends? Brenda told us her first reaction was suspicion. "It felt like a trap," she said. "After years of giving us the cold shoulder and treating us with contempt, they suddenly want to be our best friends? It didn't add up." But curiosity is a powerful force. A handful of residents, including one of our sources, decided to attend, treating it like a reconnaissance mission. What they walked into was not a party. It was a sales pitch. After about an hour of awkward small talk and burnt hot dogs, Kody gathered everyone on the back patio, right in the shadow of the monstrous illegal shed. He got up on a makeshift stage, a retaining wall, and launched into a full-blown motivational speech. He was talking about financial freedom, about being your own boss, about not being a slave to the system, our source recounted. It was all this vague, prepper, libertarian-style jargon. Then he and Robyn unveiled a series of easels with charts and graphs. They were launching a new business venture from their home, a subscription-based service for sovereign living preparedness kits. You cannot make this stuff up. They were trying to sell their neighbors overpriced buckets of dried beans and water purification tablets. They had leveraged the Community Unity BBQ as a recruitment event for their latest multi-level marketing style scheme. The very neighbors who had filed complaints against them for running a business out of their home were now being solicited to become customers of that very business. The audacity is breathtaking. It was a slap in the face, a clear message that not only do they not respect the rules, they see their neighbors as nothing more than a resource to be exploited. But that wasn't even the grand finale. As the horrified guests began to quietly slip away, Kody made one final announcement. He pointed to the front of the property and proudly proclaimed that they had just completed a new security and aesthetic enhancement. Our source walked out to the street to see what he was talking about. There, at the end of their driveway, was a brand new, massive, ornate, and completely unapproved set of wrought iron gates. And in the center of the gates, welded in gaudy gold-painted metal, was a giant stylized letter B. It was the ultimate middle finger. While owing the HOA over $20,000 for unapproved structures and other violations, they had gone and spent thousands of dollars installing another unapproved structure. A gate that screamed "keep out" to the very community they had just pretended to want unity with. It was a declaration that they were doubling down. They would not bend, they would not break, and they would not, under any circumstances, follow the rules. And this, my friends, is the reckoning. This is the final, irrefutable proof that Christine and Janelle made the only choice they possibly could. Every frustration the neighbors feel is a frustration Christine and Janelle felt for decades. Feeling ignored and disrespected when your reasonable requests are met with contempt? That was Christine begging for a move back to Utah only to be dismissed. Feeling like your shared resources are being squandered on one person's selfish whims? That was Janelle watching the family's finances get funneled into Robyn's mansion while her own housing was precarious. Feeling like you've been lured in with false promises of community only to be used for Kody's own ego-driven projects? That was the entire family, dragged to Flagstaff on the promise of a united home on Coyote Pass that Kody never had any real intention of building. The win for Janelle and Christine is this: they are no longer collateral damage in Kody and Robyn's war against the world. They got out. They are free, and now the world can see through the clear, objective lens of a homeowners association dispute, the exact brand of chaos and entitlement they endured for so long. The neighbors' anonymous testimonies are a Greek chorus, validating every complaint, every tear, every moment of frustration we saw from these women on our screens. This HOA war proves that Kody Brown's behavior isn't a product of plural marriage. It is a fundamental character flaw. He is a man who craves community but refuses to be communal. He demands respect but offers none in return. He wants all the benefits of an orderly society, whether it's a family or a neighborhood, without any of the personal responsibility. The lien on their home is more than just a debt. It's a public record of their failure. It's proof that the fantasy is over. The king and queen of the cul-de-sac have been exposed, not by a tell-all book or a TV special, but by something far more mundane and far more damning: a ledger of unpaid fines for taking out the trash too late. And you know what? It's the most validating ending Christine and Janelle could have ever hoped for. What do you all think? Is this the ultimate karma? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Do you think they'll ever pay the fine? And what do you think their next desperate move will be? Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to COCO Gossip, and ring that bell, because I have a feeling this suburban saga is far from over. I'll be keeping my ear to the ground for every new development. Until next time, stay gossipy.